You know that feeling on Christmas Eve? There's one poem that just is the sound of that night, right? For so many of us, the holidays don't really kick off until we hear those words. But, and you're going to love this, the story behind it is, well, it's pretty incredible and kind of ironic, actually. And look at this. For more than 100 years, it's been these words and images just like this one that have pretty much defined what Christmas looks like in our heads. I mean, this is where we get our classic picture of Santa, right? The sleigh, the reindeer, the whole magical visit. I bet you could finish this next line without even thinking. It's just burned into our collective memory. It's become this huge cornerstone of holiday tradition, something passed down from our parents and their parents before them. Okay, but here's the twist. The guy who wrote this magical, whimsical poem, he wasn't some fairy tale author. Not at all. He was a super serious academic, a scholar who frankly would probably be shocked to know that this is what he's remembered for. So first, let's just talk about how huge this poem's legacy really is. I mean, we're talking way more than just a bedtime story for kids. It's become a real, living, breathing tradition. Get this. Every single Christmas Eve, a whole group of people, men, women, kids, they all gather at the author's tomb in New York City. And they don't just, drop off a wreath. They stand there together in the cold and recite the entire poem out loud. How amazing is that? It's proof that this is so much more than just words on a page. So, who was this guy? Who's the person who inspired that kind of devotion? Well, let's pull back the curtain on the scholar behind St. Nick. All right, here he is, Dr. Clement C. Moore. He was born way back in 1781, and he was a big deal professor in New York. And when I say his life was dedicated to scholarly stuff, I mean really serious academic work. And this is where we get to the giant irony of his life. If you'd asked Dr. Moore back in the day, "Hey Clem, what do you want to be remembered for?" he would have pointed right to his life's work, this massive, super academic Hebrew dictionary he wrote. But no, history was like, "That's cute, but we've got other plans for you." Today, he's known for pretty much one thing, a visit from St. Nicholas, a little poem he basically thought was nothing. So that begs the question, right? If he wasn't trying to get famous, why did he even write it? Well, the answer is actually really simple and pretty sweet. This thing that's become a global sensation, it started out as just a quiet little family moment. Moore wrote the entire poem for one reason and one reason only. It was a Christmas present for his kids. He never, ever intended for anyone else to see it. I mean, you can just imagine it, can't you? His home in New York, a fire crackling in the fireplace. The kids have just hung up their stockings, all excited, and their dad says, "Hey, I've got a special treat for you," and reads them this poem he wrote just for them. That was its whole purpose. It was just meant to bring those visions of sugar plums to life for his own kids. It was a dad's gift, pure and simple. And I think that's why the poem still feels so personal, so real, even today. It's literally told through the eyes of a father, just watching the magic happen with his family. That genuine feeling, that's the secret sauce. That's why it's lasted. Okay, so how does a private family poem go from one living room to, well, the entire world? Let's break down how this thing went viral, 19th century style. It all started with the kids, of course. They loved it so much they just started reciting it to people. Then a family friend heard it and, without even asking, sent a copy to a local newspaper. They printed it, but with no author's name. From there, it just exploded. Magazines started reprinting it. Then it got into school books all over the country. Before you know it, it's being translated into different languages, even adapted into Braille. It was this totally organic, unstoppable spread of an idea. All right, this brings us to the end of Dr. Moore's story and the really powerful, completely unexpected legacy he left. So let's go back to Dr. Moore, the serious academic. Turns out, he was also a pretty big philanthropist. He actually donated the land that the General Theological Seminary in New York is built on. And every year on Christmas Eve, the students there have this tradition where they place a holly wreath on his portrait to honor him. But here's the kicker. Why? Why do they do it? You'd think it's because he gave them the land, right? The very ground under their feet. Nope. You'd think it's because he was this brilliant scholar who wrote that huge dictionary. Wrong again. They honor him for one reason and one reason only, because he's the guy who wrote "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." And that right there is the heart of this whole story. All his serious, academic work, the stuff he poured his life into and thought would be his legacy, it's basically forgotten. But that one small thing he did just for his kids, a simple little gift he never expected anyone else to see, that became his immortal gift to the world. And of course, his poem ends with maybe the most famous Christmas send-off of all time. It's a line that just perfectly captures that feeling of warmth and magic he accidentally gave to all of us. You know, it really makes you think, doesn't it? We work so hard on our careers, on the big things we think will define us. But maybe all that stuff just fades away. Maybe it's the small acts of love, the things we do for others with no expectation of getting anything back. Maybe those are the things that end up lasting forever. So it leaves me with this question for you. What unintended legacy might you be leaving behind?